Here. Today we're going to be talking about how to manifest like a god. So we're going to get ready to get started here. But give me a second here. It's Sunday and most people are asleep, and many people are not on TikTok now. So maybe I'll get some following today. Listen, we're going to go on and get started. Today we're going to be talking about how to manifest like a god. Now, many of you like, well, how does one do that? You're creative beings. You've been created in the image and the likeness of the creator. You're an energy source. So being an energy source, once you know how to direct your energy, you're going to be able to manifest more aptly the things that you want to manifest in your life. So we're going to talk about that. So first and foremost, when we're talking about manifesting like a god, you have to clarify your desire. Scripture says this: ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door is open. It's funny how the ask, seek, and knock mirrors the NLP model of VAC, visual, audio, and kinesthetic. So when we're talking about asking, that's the audio. When we're talking about the visualization, we're talking, of course, the visual or the seeking, and of course, the feeling is the knocking. When you're actually feeling the tap tap on that door, you're knocking on that door. So you're getting into that state of receiving. But first and foremost, you have to clarify what it is that you want. Far too many people that I've talked to, coaching clients, I'll inquire, okay, what is it that you want to manifest? What do you want to have in your life? Who is it that you want to be? And they say, well, I'm not sure. It's said in scripture that a double-minded person, or a person that's given their attention to multiple things, basically is unstable in all their ways, and they can't manifest the thing that they desire. When you want to manifest, you have to first and foremost clarify what it is that you want to manifest. Once you give your mind something to work with, then you're well on your way to your manifestation. You'll be surprised how many people never decide what it is that they want to manifest, and then they're wondering why they're never manifesting what it is. Or they decide for a second, and then they continuously change their mind, so they never stay on target. What you'll find about the top 3% of the population is that they're focused. They know what it is that they want, and they direct their attention towards what it is that they want to be, do, or have. Once you start focusing your attention, making a decision on what it is that you desire, that you want to manifest, who you want to be, what you want to attract into your life, what you want to assume, however you want to phrase it. Once you make that decision, you're well on your way to manifesting like the divine creator that you are. But let's move forward. So we've talked about the ask, seek, and knocks. Then you begin to see the evidence of the possibilities. You have to believe that what it is that you want to manifest in your life is possible. So many of us, when we get to a place of manifestation, when we're trying to attract something in our life, when we're trying to assume a state as already being reality for us, we don't believe the thing is possible. And we'll touch on why we don't believe that it's possible, but you have to believe at your core level that the thing that you're seeking to manifest is possible. Now, that sounds simple enough, but you'll be surprised how many people have a lot of self-doubt or internal programming that's keeping them from the thing that they say that they want to manifest in their lives. So the second thing you must do beyond clarifying your desire, you must believe that the thing that you want to manifest, no matter what it is, and let me say this, even though I'm going to touch on this in depth, yours is not the business of how it's to materialize in your world. Your only job is to get the mental picture, believe that it's possible, and begin moving in that direction. Like I will often use the scenario of taking a trip. A lot of times we have in mind the way we're going to get to a destination, but often when we begin to take that trip, we have detours. They say that an airplane, when it starts off in flight to its destination, is almost 99% off course until it gets started, and then it begins to adjust. Likewise with you, you're not going to know how the thing is, the picture that you've made up in your mind, the thing that you're seeing yourself being, doing, and having, you're not going to know how the materialization of that thing is going to come about. And even the thing that you think that's going to be the vehicle that's going to get you there, most often won't be the vehicle. So just simply see it as being possible. The thing that you want to manifest, simply see it as being possible. Okay, so next. You see the evidence as being possible. It says faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the materialization of the thing that you want to manifest. Let me touch on this real quick. Belief, faith, whatever you want to call it, is the actual item that's being manifested. Everything that you see in your world, if you look around you right now, everything that you see right now around you started off as someone's ideal. That's faith, belief. So what am I saying to you? That picture that you're thinking that you're just fantasizing about, that thing that you're seeing in your imagination, that wishful thinking as you see it as at the moment, the daydream, that's the catalyst for the thing that you want to manifest in reality. It all starts off as belief. So once you start believing a thing possible, what's going to happen are the events are going to start lining up to bring about that manifestation. So it says that faith is the substance of things hoped for. Faith is the substance and the evidence of the things not seen. So the substance is your belief. I'm trying to push you towards faith, belief, so that you don't think that this is some religious stuff that I'm talking about. I'm not speaking of religion. You guys are believing something all the time. Now, depending upon what it is that you're believing, that's going to determine what's consistently, persistently showing up in your life. And I can look at anybody's life. You can look at my life and you can know what it is that I believed up until this moment by the byproducts of the outcome, or what Jesus called the fruit in my life. You can also know what you've believed up until this moment by looking at your life and the things that have shown up consistently and persistently in your life. That's the byproduct of that faith or that belief that we talked about previously. So faith is the substance, not the exterior, not what we call reality. That's the last portion of the manifestation. What you're seeing as what we call reality is the last aspect of belief, or what we call faith. So let's move forward. So believe that it's possible that the thing that you want to manifest is showing up in your life. Okay, so let's move forward. Now, this next step is very important. We kind of touched on it briefly, but I want to go a little bit deeper here. It says this in Scripture. It says, pray believing as if you have already received. Please don't take this as a religious lesson or you're going to miss it. I'm like, please don't take this as religion. I'm using Scripture because that's the tool that I use. But we're talking about how you're made up. I call this quantumetics. This is who you are as a spiritual entity, an energy being. So what I'm telling you is how you're made up. This is not some hocus pocus magical stuff. And unfortunately, many creators have given you the impression that this stuff is magical and it seems like it's out of your reach. This is how you're designed. You start thinking about something and that something starts showing up in your world. You know, how many of us have, thought about a person, all of a sudden they called us? Or we thought about, man, I'd love to have a parking space close to this, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden that parking space shows up. Or things never work out for me. Then, of course, what we see is things never working out for us. You understand? You're doing this all the time. Your energy system having a human experience. I changed that from spiritual being having a human experience because I want you to get it no matter what your belief system is. Whether you're an atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, Hindu, whatever. This stuff applies to you. It doesn't matter. This is how you work as an energy system. So I'm really just trying to nail that in so that you get, man, I'm creating this stuff by way of my thoughts, my words, my actions, my feelings, my states, my dispositions. You get the picture. Okay, so it says that pray, thank, let's use the word thank for those who may not be religious. Thank, believing that you already have what it is that you've wanted to receive. So why is this important? Many of us, again, we'll go back to the first point that faith is the substance of things hoped for. When you start acting from a place of belief, your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what it is that you're imagining and what's real in this thing called the drama man, or this play called reality. It's going to start taking that as your current reality. So when you start praying, thinking, acting from a place that this thing is already yours, you're not trying to manifest it. You're not operating from a place of lack because, of course, now you say, well, coach, well, what if I don't have money and money is the thing that I want? How can I get into it? We'll talk about this more in depth, but you start acting from a place of gratitude. Listen, there is no lack. There's only a lack of ideals. Let me say that again. There is no such thing as lack. There's only a lack of ideals. Once you start putting your mind to work and you start directing your own inner conversation, when you start manifesting like the divine creator that you are, you'll come up with money opportunities. You'll come up with health opportunities. You'll come up with relationship opportunities because you're thinking from what it is that you want to manifest. Neville called that living from the end. Every great person in history has done this, whether they were aware of it or not. I often talk about, the story of Jeff Bezos. Jeff saw himself as a online book producer, selling books online, and he saw what wasn't common in his day, being about 25 years ago. He saw an online bookstore not making millions of dollars, but hundreds of billions of dollars. It was a crazy idea. Nobody could have imagined that Amazon would have become the mammoth that it is, except Jeff Bezos. You understand what I'm saying? Once you start imagining, now I'm going to take you back in history. There was a man by the name of Abraham. Again, it doesn't matter your religious persuasion. I'm using this as an allegory so that you can get what I'm saying. There was a man by the name of Abraham. And Abraham was told to leave the familiar, they called it family, leave what you're accustomed to, and go to a place where I will show you. And when Abraham went to this desert place, as it were, the spirit in him said, listen, if you could imagine the stars in the sky and the sands on the seashore, so will your descendants be. Now you got to remember this. Abraham was 90 years old. Why is this relevant to you? When you think like a creator, when you understand thinking from a place of a creator, what's going to happen is you're going to realize that when I begin to picture, good seeing you, Violet, when I begin to picture, when I begin to see in my imagination, this is the catalyst for creation. We've been told by ancient script that we've been given dominion. But see, we think that that dominion is us being puffed up and being proudful. It's not that. It's controlling this thing here. When you begin to direct your own inner conversation, when you begin to direct your thoughts, your words, your attitudes, your dispositions, you're going to transform your world. Now, many of us, because we've been so programmed by the exterior from the time that we were in our mother's womb until whatever age you are at the moment, we believe that this is reality. I was talking to somebody recently and we were talking about, the TikTok ban. And I said, listen, this is nothing but a money play. But what they ended up doing was going online, and what they did, they said, well, online, it says that the government's trying to protect us, and that's all they needed. I'd rather for the government to get my information than China to get my information. Guys, it's the same difference. They're all using your information for their advantage, their benefit. This is not talking political. I just want you to understand how this stuff works. We've been so programmed that only thing we need to do is hear a newsreel, see an article, see something. Oh, I'm going to run out and get this shot. I'm not discounting. If the shot's for you, fine. I'm not, understand what I'm saying. But we've been so programmed. Listen, give you an example. You're watching the TV, and all of a sudden, I'm watching the TV the other day, and it said, if you can't lay your hand flat, you may need this procedure. Wow. People have lived their whole life unable to lay their hand flat on a table, and it's been fine. Now all of a sudden there's a commercial that says, if you can't lay your hand flat, you got a problem. You understand what I'm saying? All of a sudden, the person that has for 50 years not been able to lay their hand flat calls their doctor up because a commercial said that they have a problem. Listen, I'm guilty. Sometimes I'm driving past McDonald's and I forget about the commercial that I watched about the fish fillet, and all of a sudden I want to go to McDonald's and get a fish fillet. Now, I know that it's probably not healthy for me, but Again, I'm not, you know, uh, I can also be taken, let me say it that way. So we also have to be mindful of the commercials, saw the commercial. It's amazing. And so many people saw that same commercial about the hands being flat and thought nothing about it, but they called their doctor. Been years. But think about all the other stuff. You know, you get a sniffle. Now, I used to say this pertaining to a sniffle cold. Used to say, you know, every time this time of year I catch a cold. So every time about that time of year I would catch a cold. I changed it. I said, well, now if I get a cold, it lasts for less than 24 hours. I'm like, why do I need to say I get a cold, period? So I changed my conversation. I said, I don't catch colds. Thank you. How you doing? So you understand what I'm saying? We have to change our programming, but we have to be mindful, conscious of what it is that we're telling ourselves. We've so allowed media, social media, government, educators, family to tell us who we are that we've brought into the identity of who they said that we are. So whether it be about money or relationships or whatever, as Wendy says, I never get sick. Absolutely. So creators, you got to change your own inner conversation. Quit allowing other people to program you. Point in case, I was talking to a friend, and because this friend was a friend of color, we were talking. I said, you know, we got to be mindful. She's like, we? She said, I don't buy into we. I'm not a we. And I'm like, wow. And I had to think about that. But many years ago, we went to a conference. It was by a guy by the name of T. Herv Eckert. His was The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, still a great book. And when he said that, you know, we brought into the we mentality, she caught on to that. That one went well over my head, and I brought into some other stuff. But when she said that, I said, you know what? I have to watch my conversation because I'm associating myself with the ideology of what I don't want to be associated with. Creators, we have to be mindful of what it is that we're creating. We're creating our lives. You know, Mr. Linder will often say that we're always thinking ahead of our evidence. Absolutely correct. The question is, what is the evidence that you're projecting into your future? Your thoughts, as much as you may think that they're falling into the past, they're not. They're advancing into your future. Jesus said it this way. He said, listen, that you will give an account for even every idle word. Boom. Idle word. Not the words that we're thinking consciously. He said that we would even give an account for every idle word in the day of judgment. Now, let me clear this stuff, the day of judgment. You know, church has got us so much in hellfire and brimstone, I need to erase the slate. Day of judgment is the fulfillment of that word. So you say, somebody said to you as a kid, you'll never amount to anything. You're going to end up in prison. Then all of a sudden you're looking from prison bars and saying, that's what they told me. That was the day of judgment. I'm going to be a success. All of a sudden you look back on your life and you're successful. That's the day of judgment. The day of judgment is the fulfillment of that thought, that word, that attitude, that feeling, that state that you are occupying. When that fulfillment, when it's manifested, when it shows up in your life, we call it fruit. The day of judgment is the fulfillment of that finalization of whatever that thought was. Jesus called it every idle word. So not only every word that we're thinking consciously, even the stuff that we're thinking unconsciously or idly. Years ago, I was working at a telecommunication company, and I said some nonsense, and a peer of mine, he was like in one of those Word of Faith churches, he says, you know, DeCarlo, you need to be mindful of the words you're saying. I'm like, so God, I'm getting all, you know, ballistic about it. So God doesn't know when I'm joking. It's not on God, it's on me. You know, it's like the person says, you know, that person's a pain in my neck. That person just makes me sick. I can't stand you. All of those things are sowing seeds, and all of a sudden we start wondering why we're feeling a certain kind of way because we planted the seed of what we thought was an idle word. Now it showed up as part of what's resonating in our lives, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. So be mindful of what it is that you're picturing. If you want to experience rapid change, what I call quantumetics, if you want to experience rapid change, start visualizing from your desired end, seeing that thing that you want as already currently being right now your reality. You start doing it, and again, I know it sounds like, because now listen, they didn't mean to unprogram you as children, but they did. They told you to stop daydreaming. They told you to stop make-believing, grow up, stop pretending. That was one of the most valuable tools that you had in your arsenal as a kid. And this is why, as kids, everything's possible. And Jesus reminds us, unless you become as a little child, you will no wise enter into the mindset of the kingdom of God. It's a mindset. It's a dominion mindset. When you start operating from a place of dominion, it's when you start directing your own inner conversation consciously, saying, listen, I don't want that to show up in my life. I'm not going to keep giving my attention to that. You're going to start visualizing, seeing yourself, feeling, emotionalizing, and experience all the attributes of having that experience. I've done this with cars, homes, relationships. It works. But also, let me say this, it does also just the opposite. If you're imagining the worst, if you're worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, that becomes your new prayer. Understand that. Prayer is not only when you're doing something positive. Prayer is also, Jesus said, you'll give an account for every idle word. That's the prayer. That's the fruit. That's the manifestation. That's the byproduct. Now, if you look in your life and you say, well, I'm not liking what I'm seeing in my life right now, it simply starts with something as simple as you starting to change what it is that you're giving your attention to, what you're imagining. And listen, your mind is a muscle. Your brain's a muscle. So as you exercise imagination, as you exercise going into silence, as you exercise rejecting a negative thought and accepting that new ideal that you want to manifest in your life, you're going to get better at it. Nobody wants to hear that they have to be disciplined. We want to believe that we can think haphazard and just manifest anything that we want. But what you're going to manifest is chaos in your life. You're going to have those hits and misses. Sometimes you're going to be successful. Sometimes you're going to find failure. But if you want to be more consistent and persistent, you have to begin to discipline your thinking. Now, there's a book out there, The 7-Day Mental Diet. Great book. It's a great book by Ernest Holmes. The 7-Day Mental Diet. Matter of fact, if you don't like reading, you can go on YouTube, the channel that we're on right now. You can go on YouTube, look up Ernest Holmes and the 7-Day Mental Diet. It's a very short listen. It's a very short read. But if you start practicing, Jesus says, don't judge. And the reason why he says don't judge, not because it's just so bad, but because of how you judge, so shall it be measured back to you. If you say that all rich people are bad, for example, then the only thing that judgment is going to bring in your life is poverty. Because in your mind's eye, in your core belief system, you're like, well, I can't be rich because if I'm rich, then I'm going to be bad. So Jesus said, don't judge. Do me a favor. Make a note, make a mental note, write it down, whatever you need to do. Go and listen to the 7-Day Mental Diet by Ernest Holmes. It's going to radically, if you haven't already, it will radically transform your life. It wouldn't even hurt that you practice listening to it on a monthly basis or whatever, just as a reminder, but it's radical. Matter of fact, I'm telling you this, I'm going to go back and listen to it today because it's so powerful. My whole point, Mr. Linda's whole point, is to get you to be mindful of your own inner conversation and directing your own self-talk so that you're creating, this is not about me. This is not about me. I'm not trying to persuade you with anything. I'm not trying to get you to join anything. This is about you controlling your own inner conversation to create the life that you want to create. One of my friends on here, we were talking some time back and he had manifested the car. He said, now it's my boat, and I'm sure by now he's probably manifested the boat. And if he decided not to and change, then he just didn't happen. But I know that he probably has that boat right now. So he's going to have to invite me out to get a ride on that boat. So let's move forward. So visualize. Set your attention. I kind of touched on this briefly. The next thing you need to do is begin to set your attention persistently on what it is that you want to manifest. What do I mean by that? Jesus said this, that, you're talking about forgiveness, and he said, Peter said, how often should I forgive? 7 times? He's like, that's the goal, 7 times a day I'm going to forgive. And Jesus said 70 times 7. Now, that doesn't mean 490. It means continuously. Now, why? You're like, well, I don't want to forgive anybody that much. Got the boat and the truck. Good job. Hey, and more to come. No doubt in my mind. More to come. Whatever you set your attention on is yours. So he says 70 times 7. This is not solely about forgiveness. This is about whatever it is that you want to manifest in your life. He talks about a widow. And she kept going to a king, harassing him. And the king didn't care about people, authority, or anything else. But he said, you know what? Unless this woman wearies me to death, I'm going to give her judgment. And he says, your Heavenly Father's not like that. But your goal is to get that new ideology, that new belief system in you. And just how you learn how to walk, you have to do the same thing with talking and everything else. When we went through the educational system, it was often done by repetition. Now, all of a sudden, we think that when it comes to manifestation, I can just think it one time and all of a sudden it shows up. It has to be ingrained in your imagination. It has to become a part of who you are. So you keep repeating it, as Jesus said, 70 times 7, until it becomes a part of you, where you don't even have to think about it no more, because now you're walking in abundance. You're walking in that new car, that new truck, that new boat, that new house, that new relationship. So when it shows up, it's no surprise to you. I talk about a young lady who, I was watching the Olympics a couple of years ago, and this young lady had won whatever her thing. She won the gold medal, and the interviewer said, "Did you ever see yourself winning this gold medal?" She said, "Yes." And he was surprised because he thought she was going to be all humble. Listen, Olympians, they understand this. They've been practicing visualization for years. They understand the power of seeing the routine in their mind and replaying it over and over and over again. Understand, when you're doing that repeatedly, you're rewiring your mind. This is not some activity just to keep you busy. It's rewiring, and this is neuroscience that we're talking about now. You're rewiring the synapses and the neural connectors in your mind. And I'm not even all into that, so I'm not even going to act like I can speak from that level. Those who know. You're rewiring your mind. And at a subconscious level, now that thing has become true for you. You repeat it in your mind's eye. You see the story over and over again until it becomes real to you. So persist until, don't reach out to me and say, Coach, I've been doing this for a year and it's not working. If you're not dead, you need to still be doing it. And one of you said you're never going to die, so you need to keep doing it until eternity. Guys, this is your life. What better do you have to do than manifest the thing that you want to manifest in your life? What better thing do you have to do? Absolutely nothing. When I finally make that transition from this life to the next, I want to know that I've done everything that I felt in my spirit that I wanted to do. I don't want to look back and regret and say, I wish I would have tried blank, blank, blank. So this is why I reach out to certain people. That's why I want certain friends in my life, because I want like-minded people in my life. And those who are not, later for you. Listen, guys, it's not personal when you start taking your own self-interest, your best interest at heart. The thing is, when you become your best self, it's going to benefit everybody around you. But as long as you keep trying to put on everybody else's oxygen mask, you're going to suffer. But likewise, so will they, because you won't be at your full capacity to help them. But when you become your best self, then you're more equipped to help other people on their journey. It's not selfishness. It's the most unselfish thing that you can do. Like I say about forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most unselfish, forgiveness is one of the selfish things that you can do, because you're really freeing yourself. And I love saying that, because it's not about the other person. It's about you. So it still comes back to you. If you're not healthy, whole, abundant, prosperous, healthy, you're not benefiting anybody by being broke, busted, and disgusted and ill health. You're not benefiting anybody, not even yourself. Okay, let's move forward. So persist. If it hasn't shown up and you hadn't changed your mind, then you still need to be doing it. I don't care if you've been doing it 20 years. Understand this. There's people, Grandma Moses, for example, had a passion of painting, but she had to raise a family. She and her husband had to raise a, do what they needed to do on the farm. When he died, she said, you know what? I've always wanted to paint. I guess she was about 75, if not older. And she became famous after the age of 75. What am I saying to you? It's never too late. You keep persisting until that thing shows up. Colonel Haddon Sanders, KFC, got his first Social Security check at 62 and said, there's nowhere in the world I'm going to be able to live off of this. And he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. Ray Kroc, well over 50 years old, started McDonald's. It's never too late to be what you could have been. Now, you'll be a different version of that. And I'm not telling you that you're going to go back and be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. You're not. Not at the age of 50. They're not going to hire you. That's just that. But it doesn't mean that you can't be out there doing your thing as a senior, because I've seen seniors get together and have collaborations and still get on that field and do something different. What I'm saying to you is the thing that Divine Spirit has placed in you to do, as long as you're breathing, it's still in you to do. And the funny thing is, only you can do what Divine Spirit, God, Life Force has placed in you to do. Nobody can do what it is that you've been called to do. Nobody. They can do similar things, but nobody can do it like you. Nobody. Okay, so we talked about 70 times 7. You got to start taking inspired action. One of the things in the law of assumption, mostly, I'm not going to say law of attraction, but law of assumption community, one of the things that we hold on to is lift not a finger. That has a place. There's certain times when we've imagined and we've done all that we know to do and we let it go, we release it. We'll talk about letting go in a second. But there's other times where Spirit in you is going to request that you take inspired action, that you do something on your side, to go see this person, to call this person, to say hello to somebody, a stranger passing on the street, to give. I don't know what the thing is, but you're going to be asked to take inspired action. I've had money come out of thin air. Then I've had money show up because there were some things that I've done. Somebody reached out to me recently, and she was blessed with $10,000 from almost a stranger. She knew the person, but they never had a conversation. And when this person died, he blessed her with $10,000. It happens. But a lot of stuff that you need to be doing, there's action that's required. So there's a time for lift not a finger, but there's also a time for inspired action. And that's you knowing. I can't tell you when that is, but Spirit in you will direct you when to take inspired action. Now listen, for those who just believed in not lifting a finger, and that's how you live your life, I'm going to tell you this, for the most part, most of you are going to be broke, busted, and disgusted, because there's certain things. Scripture says this, and Neville says this. God always acts. Look at his conversation. God only acts, but he acts as you. Understand, you got imagination, then you got this thing we call reality. A lot of times on this side of reality, there's inspired action that has to be done. There may be starting that business plan. Now if you just kept the business plan in your mind, that business plan will not take place without you starting, let's say, that YouTube channel, making that first conversation, doing that first video. You say, well, I'm in my mind. You're going to stay in your mind, and like I said, you're going to be broke, busted, and disgusted. There's certain times that you have to take action. I can't tell you when, but you will know when. Spirit will guide you. Your inner knowing will guide you when to take action. I'm just trying to make this clear. There's time for lift not a finger, but there's also time for inspired action. When Spirit prompts you to take action, do what it is that you've been called to do. Listen, I love Neville, but many of us have made Neville such a cult that anything that Neville says that we can't think outside and think for ourselves. Neville was on his journey. Neville didn't go around quoting Abdullah. Well, Abdullah said this and Abdullah didn't do this, and Neville had his own, and the things that Neville learned in his journey wasn't everything that Abdullah learned in his journey. No more than you being a student of Neville, Joseph Murphy, Wayne Dyer, whomever. Your journey is not going to mirror their journey. Absolutely. I had the promise that Neville spoke of, but mine wasn't exactly like Neville's, and that was okay. It was my journey. You take the tools of any teacher. Take the tools. Those tools that work for us, you utilize them. Those tools that don't, you cost, you cast them to the side and try something else. One of my coaching clients had a client of her own, and she said that the client had been using the principles of Neville Goddard for 12 years and he was miserable. And she said, stop doing that. Absolutely. If anybody's teaching isn't working for you, try something else. Again, love Neville, but that was Neville's journey, not your journey. Some things are going to be different. Some of your manifestation, some of the process that God takes you through is going to be different from Neville's. It's going to be totally uniquely yours. I can't get that across. I can't say that enough. And I know for those Neville purists, they're going to miss what I'm saying. But Neville, many of us say, well, I don't believe in religion anymore. Neville has become the new religion for many folks. And if it is not said according to the law, religion of Neville, then we don't even operate and live from our place of power. Neville didn't want you to raise him up on a cross and worship him. He wanted you to discover the divine called God within you and begin to live from that. He wanted you to have your own experience. His was just a guideline. This was my experience. Let me share my experience with you, and hopefully you benefit from it. But he didn't want it to be like this rigid blueprint so that we didn't even say, well, I'm not going to do this because Neville didn't say that. That's not what he wanted. Now Neville's become the new Jesus for you. He's become the new religion for you. Take what Neville has taught you, and if it works, then continue to do it. If it doesn't, try something new. It's not blasphemy. It's not wrong to do something different than Neville. You're not dishonoring Neville. Matter of fact, you're honoring him. He wanted you to have your own journey. So let's move forward. So take inspired action. Neville talks about this in Scripture. Don't be just doers of the word that you're hearing. But don't be hearers of the word that you're just hearing, but also be doers. Apply the stuff. Find out if these things are true for you. And if they are, continue to do them. If not, try something new. You're given to do so. Okay, bridge of incident. This is very important, so I want to discuss this. You're not going to know. Once you start doing all the stuff that we've talked about, and you'll be able to go back and listen to the video again. But once you see in your mind's eye, I have to make this clear. It says, God's thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are past our imagining or finding out. You're not going to know. Once you start seeing the picture of how the materialization of the more money, of the better relationship, of the better health. I had some things going on with health, and I thought that they were going to be resolved one way, and I'm doing all this stuff thinking that it's going to resolve the issue. Spirit took me in a totally different arena and to find the cure. What am I saying to you? You're not going to know. Your job is to see the end in mind. You have to just see. So exactly. We only can see so many bits of information from the conscious level of understanding. At a subconscious level, there's infinite possibilities. The little few things that you can see as possibilities of money coming in, of a better relationship, better health, they're so minute that you're limiting the universe of how God shows up in your life. Your job is to see health. Your job is to see loving relationship. Your job is to see more money. Once you start seeing that, the bridge of incident will begin to show up. I tell about the story often. I was in California, wanted to make the transition from California to Georgia. I started planning, but things started taking place. Go to a high school reunion, and a friend says, oh, I'm living in Georgia. If you need a place to stay, come. You know, I'm driving home from work on one of the major California highways, and this tank of a car is coming behind me, and I'm thinking to myself, they're not going to be able to stop. The car plows into me, pushes me into the car in front of me, and pushes that car into the car in front of them. You know, I walk away from it. You know, insurance is processed. That money was the money that I used to make the transition. Didn't know how the money was going to come. Received some severance from my job. Didn't know how the money was going to come. The car that was supposedly totaled out was the car that I drove from California to Georgia. You're not going to know. When I made the decision to move from California to Georgia, only thing I knew was my picture. We couldn't go online, but I would look at articles and things like that. And I didn't know how the money was going to, matter of fact, I knew I didn't have the money, so didn't know how the money was going to show up. You understand my point? And even though that accident took place, I was unscathed. But divine entity known as God used it as the means for me to make the transition. You're not, it may, you say, listen, I want to make more money. All of a sudden you get fired from your job. And you're like, now, how's more money going to happen? What am I going to do now? You know, you were making millions of dollars on TikTok. Now you're like, well, what do I do now? Listen, there's nobody that was making millions of dollars on TikTok that did not take transferable skills to be able to use on any platform. Whether you were selling or whatever, there's always a platform. Now you know how to sell. Now you know how to get products. It wasn't in vain. There's always going to be another TikTok. There's always going to be another YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. There's always going to be competitors. There's always going to be new tools. But the skill sets that you learn, they're transferable. Don't get into the mind that that was just for TikTok. You say, how can I repurpose that information for my new business? Once you start looking at it from that perspective, it's going to come to you. But you don't learn all those transferable skills for nothing. I'm just telling you, creators, the bridge of incident, what you think is the end is often the beginning. What you think is the end is often the beginning. Okay, let's move forward. So you're not going to know the how, though. Your job is to see the end in mind. Abraham died not seeing the fulfillment of the promise, but God counted it to Abraham as righteousness or right thinking, right belief system. See it in your mind's eye first. Okay, so talked about the bridge of incident. I talked about this briefly, so I won't go into it in depth, but you got to respond to the opportunities. Since I'm talking about this, I'll talk about this story. Many of you probably heard this story. You know, guys, floods taking place. The guy's on the roof, and he's like, I'm waiting on God. And, first, before it got really bad, boat passed by and said, hey, listen, come on, we got it right. No, I'm waiting on God. Some other vehicles came. Finally, a helicopter came. He said, no, I'm waiting on God. Guy dies in the flood. He gets to heaven. God, why don't you save me? I sent the boat. I sent these other vehicles. I sent the helicopter. What else do you need? God uses people. It says give, and it shall be given to you. Pressed down, shaken together, running over. Will God, not God. It says people. Pour into your lap. Often, your opportunity is going to come by way of a person you may not even know. An idea, you may be watching a video, a concept, a belief. Wow. And all of a sudden, that's going to be the catalyst of your desired change. Respond to the opportunity. I've made a commitment to myself about fitness, about my diet, about certain things in my life. And I follow through on those commitments, not because I'm so disciplined, but I understand how this mind works. If I find it easy to start breaking the commitments that I have for myself, then it becomes easier to break the commitments to you. And then pretty soon I start setting up a pattern. Now, the one thing that I learned from that T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, T. Harv Eker said this, and this has lived with me for the last 20 years since that seminar. And you'll find this true with predominantly most of the people that you come across. He said this, the way you do anything tends to be the way you do everything. So it's important for me to even something as simple as flossing before going to bed, to do that, because it's a commitment that I've made to myself. I don't know what the commitments that you've made to yourself, but when you start breaking your own personal commitments, it becomes easier to break commitments to everyone else. And pretty soon you have a life of broken commitments and you're like, why can't I make more money? Why can't I improve my health? Why don't I have loving relationships? Because you've gotten in the habit of breaking commitments. Start with the commitments till you make. Now listen, the commitments that you make with yourself aren't in stone, but let me explain this. If you decide that you're not going to do certain things again, like for example, for whatever reason, I have a moment of madness. Now, I'm not going to work out 3 times a week. Okay, we say that that's okay. Now that I've made an agreement, instead of 3 times a week, I'm going to work out 2 times a week, but I'll just make them longer. You understand what I'm saying? Once you make the agreement, you can change it. There's nothing wrong with changing it, but don't just stop, because it becomes easier to stop than everything else. But as you start doing this, everybody wants this stuff to be magical. You're the magic. You're the magic. It's not Neville's principles. It's not Coach DiCarlo's principles, Lindo's, Joseph Murphy. It's you taking the information that you have, and nobody wants to hear this. They want to just know that there's a magic formula that somebody can give them, and all of a sudden their life changes. The magic formula is you taking action, doing what you know to do consistently and persistently. It's going to radically transform your life. The magic formula is you doing what needs to be done consistently and persistently. Is going to radically transform your life. Anybody else tells you anything else is bullshit. I'm just being straight with you. And and maybe you'll get some little results, but let me say it my way now. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. You direct spirit in what it is that you want to be, do, or have. And if anybody gives you a magic formula that stops you from being who it is that you need to be, you're not going to get the manifestation. It says, and we'll talk on this, as a matter of fact, it's going to be my next point. How can two walk together unless there's a spirit of agreement? Many of you don't have your manifestation because you're not in agreement with it. You're like, well, Coach, I want my man. I keep thinking about it all the time. You're not in vibrational alignment. You don't even believe that you can have what it is that you're praying for. How can two walk together unless there's a spirit of agreement? If anybody tells you that you can manifest anything without being in agreement, the reason why you don't have that relationship, that person, for whatever reason, there's not a alignment, there's not a spirit of agreement somewhere. It could be looks. It could be the vibration, that the way that you look may not be attractive to them. Some people will tell you that you can have anything or any person. Everybody's God's creating. You can't force another God to be at your will. You can influence. You can influence me, and all of a sudden I'm calling you. I'm like, Violet, I don't even know why I'm calling you, but something just prompted me to call. Well, Coach, I was thinking about you, and now, will I be Violet's slave? Absolutely not. There's people that tell you that you can make people your automatons. So what they're saying is that this other God, just like you can control them 100%. It's nonsense. Can you influence them? Absolutely. But once you influence that person, let's say that y'all get on that first date, but you're a knucklehead. They see something at that point of you being a knucklehead, and they said, I'm not attracted to this person no more. And no matter what coach you get, no matter what manifestation coach, because they've seen that you're a knucklehead, they're not attracted to you anymore. They're going to leave you alone. And the more you persist trying to run after them because you've proven that you're a knucklehead, I've been the knucklehead, so I know. So since you've proven that you're a knucklehead, there's nothing until you change that vibration. And that sometimes happens. It can happen overnight, sometimes never. Now we're going to get into this next point. It says, how can two walk together unless there's a spirit of agreement? If you're not in vibrational agreement to what it is, money, relationships, health, you're not going to bring about that manifestation. And even Scripture says this, to him, her who has, more shall be given. Now here's the caveat. To him, her who has not, even that, and again, for those people that think that I'm speaking religious, I'm not. I'm telling you how your spirit works, your energy system works. You know, sometimes the hardest thing is just getting people to be reprogrammed from their own ego, as it were. But if you're not in alignment, and again, I know in this community, the reason why I don't have 100,000 followers is because I'm not saying what everybody else is saying. I could tell you whatever it is that you want to hear and tell you that you can manifest anything and just be anything and do anything and have anything and stay at the same vibrational level and not change anything. I could tell you that. And like I said, I would probably have 100,000 followers plus, but it'd be bullshit. Your energy systems. As you're vibrating as energy systems, if you don't understand that, okay, I'm not a vibrational match with this person, what do I need to do to become a vibrational match with that person? Then all of a sudden, you're attracting more money. You're attracting better health because, see, you saw better health as a possibility. You're attracting loving relationships. It wasn't that knucklehead that you thought it was, that SP that person was an abuser. And you thought that it's got to be that person or no person. Neville had the same conversation. But your spirit, the divine self, the divine part of you saw something bigger, better, more. And so it closed every door on you to keep you away from that knucklehead that would have probably taken your life so that you could have that person that was loving, nurturing, that would build you up, that loves you, care for you, and to give you their life. I know I'm saying stuff that's not popular, but I'm saying what you need to hear if you're going to be a powerful manifester. I'm not trying, Mr. Lindo will say this, we're not trying to attract an audience. We're trying to change lives. We're looking for students. We're looking for people that want to take this stuff and elevate it and take it to the next level. I could tell you exactly what you want to hear, and I can grow this channel to 200, 3,000, 500,000 people. There's people doing it. But I'm foolish enough to say, let me tell them what they need to hear so that they can transform their lives. If you bear with me and you start implementing what it is that I'm telling you, my brother out there and other people know that I'm telling them the truth because they've tried it, they use it, it works. If you bear with me and you start implementing, you start watching your thoughts, you catch your inner conversation, you're like, that's not taking me where I want to be. I want more money. So what do I need to do to start thinking from a place of more money, better health, loving relationships? All of a sudden, thanks for sharing. Once you start doing that, all of a sudden your life's going to be radically transformed. And at that moment, it's going to seem like a miracle. But let me say this again. You're the miracle. You're the miracle. You've been created in the image and the likeness of the creator of the universe, your energy system. You start putting your thoughts towards anything, consistently and persistently, start living from that state. You become that person. You clothe yourself in that new attitude, that new personality. You're going to get the results. Now, are they going to come overnight? Some. But some are going to take a little bit longer. You got to be mature enough to say, okay, I've seen this stuff work in the past when I've done this, this, and this. Let me keep doing this, this, and this because it works. You can't be so immature that when it doesn't show up overnight, this stuff doesn't work, and then you throw your towel in, and then all of a sudden you go back to your old thought patterns, your old way of thinking, and you start getting the old results again. It's absolutely working. Okay, so get in the vibration of what it is that you want to be, do, or have. Start being that person. Start looking at other people that have the success that you want. Start watching those videos. Start looking at those programs. What you're doing is rewiring your mind. And as you're watching those programs, see yourself being them, as it were. See yourself infused in the story. Okay. You got to release the fear. I understand. For years, I did YouTube videos. If you go back to I didn't even take them down. If you go back to my earlier YouTube videos, it was me talking in the background, and I had this image, and I was like, so you had, the channel really didn't start growing until people started know, liking, and trusting me. How did that happen? I started showing up on camera. You got to start doing your first video. This is something you want to do. You got to take that first step of whatever that thing is that you want to do. I know it's uncomfortable. Ego's goal is to keep you comfortable. And so even in your discomfort, because I'm familiar, they say the better the devil you know, ego will keep you in that discomfort because you say, I'm familiar with this, as opposed to you propelling yourself into your abundance, to the good that God has for you. But once you start finding yourself getting comfortable with discomfort, moving beyond fear, it says, fear not, for I'm with you. You got to understand, God's got you. The problem is most of us don't realize God's got us as us. And when we hear the voice, we discount it because we're like, I can't do that. Moses was told, go to Pharaoh, tell the people that God has sent you and to tell Pharaoh to let the people go. Moses was like, who am I? And God said this. He said, who should I say sent me? And this is your name. He said, tell them that I am that. Whatever that thing that you're claiming, that I am. You're a very powerful creator. And whatever you find yourself agreeing to about you, God says yes. Let me say it again. Whatever you find agreement, we talked about two agreeing, you and your subconscious mind, conscious, subconscious mind. Whatever you say about you, I'm stupid. Universe says, be it unto you according to your faith. I'm smart, be it unto you according to your faith. I'm healthy, be it unto you according to your faith. Now, it's not just us saying, we start living from the thing that we're claiming. As we start living from the thing that we're claiming, that's what's going to show up in our lives. If I could only get you to see how powerful you truly are. This is not about me. This is about you being able to speak a word and it's manifested in your life. Everything that's in your life right now, even if it's bad, take comfort in this. It's the byproduct of your thoughts, your words, your actions, your feelings, your state, your dispositions, your attitudes. Take comfort in that. You're like, well, coach, why would I take comfort in that? Because if you can think those thoughts and create that, imagine when you start directing your thoughts towards what it is that you want to be, do, or have, what your life's going to be like. Fear not, I am with you. But understand, I am sounds like you. So when you say, I'm whatever, you're impregnating your world with that new ideology, and the only thing that you're going to see is the evidence of what it is that you've claimed about I am. I am that I am. Okay. Last thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to wind down with this. Celebrate. You're going to celebration. I think that's cool in the game, somebody, and I'm not going to mess it up by singing it. Guys, celebrate. Every little victory that you get, celebrate, because what you're telling universe, source, God, give me more of that. Like I said earlier, your worry, your complaint is a prayer for the opposite. Stop doing that. You see other people prosper, even if you don't like them, celebrate. What you're doing is telling universe, give me some of that. When you're complaining, you're saying, give me some of that. Celebrate the thing that you want to have is already being in your life. It is. You got to remember, it shows up as thought first. Reality is secondhand, as Mr. Lundo often say. He say this. Many of you probably miss it, but it's so profound. He say it's only new as ideal. What does that mean? Everything that shows up in your life, love it, first person, everything that shows up in your life starts up first and foremost as a belief. You may not even realize that those beliefs because they've been programmed from childhood. And they keep showing up. You're like, why does this stuff keep showing up about money? Why am I still having these relationship problems? Why am I having these health problems? Because you haven't cleared the old story and replaced it with a new story. But you got to understand, be it unto you as you believe. This is not religion. This is how you work as a energy system. I call it spiritual being. Start directing your inner conversation, your thoughts on what it is that you want to do. You say, Coach, I don't know how to do that. Start cutting pictures out. Go on the internet and start getting lavish cars or whatever. And I love Carl Runfeld's story. He's a billionaire out of Dubai. He was from Sweden. He started practicing the law of attraction about 7 years ago. He was working in a grocery store, putting up cans and so forth on the shelves. He said, I want to be a millionaire. Only thing he knew was law of attraction. What he knew with the law of attraction, he started applying it. Today, the kid, I looked up his net worth, he's over $1.1 billion, primarily through Bitcoin, but he's into other things and he's educating people. Set the intention, get the picture, decide who it is that you want to be, do, or have. Get that picture and start getting images, start watching videos, start looking at programs of people doing what I love watching biographies, because it often tells me that if they can do it, so can I. And you got to understand they're ordinary people just like you. They just did extraordinary things, one day at a time. Guys, love you. If we don't talk before next Sunday, I'll talk to you next Sunday. Have a great and prosperous week. And love you guys. Take care.